first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to babysit for my brother and sister-in-law after they previously told me they don't trust me? I, 28 male, have an older brother, 31 male, and sister-in-law, 30 female, who have a 3-year-old son, and sister-in-law is about 7 months pregnant with their second child. I am a single man in my 20s and live by myself. As such, I live a fairly typical bachelor lifestyle. I enjoy going out to bars and clubs. In the past, I have attended music festivals and dabbled in substance use, and I do not apologize for it. It's the way I am choosing to live my life right now. But I am also working full-time for a Fortune 500 company and making, well, over 6 figures. All in all, I like to think that I have my stuff together pretty well for a person my age. When my brother and sister-in-law had their first kid, sister-in-law pretty much told me in no uncertain terms that she would never trust me to watch her son by myself. She told this to me completely on her own, and when I asked my brother about it, he pretty much just sided with her and shrugged. Now, I admit that some aspects of my lifestyle are not kid-friendly, but I also understand there is a time and a place for everything, and I would never do anything to put my nephew in any compromised situation. I have never pressed the topic with my sister-in-law or my brother, and until recently, it has never been a problem. A few weeks ago, my brother called me in the middle of the night and asked if I could watch their son. Sister-in-law was having stomach pains and they needed to go to the hospital, but they had no one else to watch their son. Sister-in-law's parents were quarantined after COVID exposure, and every other option they had couldn't do it. I was literally a last resort. I asked if sister-in-law was okay with it, and my brother said she didn't know. He was asking me and he was desperate. I told him the only way I would be okay with it was if sister-in-law asked me herself, because I didn't want to cause an issue. My brother told me they didn't have time and they would drop off my nephew on the way to the hospital in an hour. When they got to my apartment, I went down to meet them and sister-in-law saw me and recognized where they were and started screaming at my brother. She started yelling questions at me like whether or not I have a substance on the counter or if I have a girl up there with me. So I told my brother I was sorry, but this wasn't going to work. I told him I love him and hope everything works out, and I told sister-in-law the same. But she ignored me and told my brother to take her to the hospital. Everything at the hospital ended up being okay, and sister-in-law and the baby are healthy. She wasn't going into early labor and they were back home the next day. However, my brother called me after that and said I was a huge a-hole for not helping. I said it wasn't really my decision, as sister-in-law made it pretty clear in the moment that she didn't want her son staying with me. He said I should have just taken my nephew, as sister-in-law was in no condition to make a rational decision. My mom called me the other day and said I should apologize to my brother and sister-in-law for what I did, but I don't think I was even in the wrong. Was I an a-hole for not helping them? Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. That's insane. You literally were going to get screamed at and have been the bad guy no matter what you did. That's not fair to you at all. Yes, exactly. OP, you did the right thing. And honestly, your brother and sister-in-law are the ones who owe you the apology. In fact, less your sister-in-law who had already made her thoughts clear than your brother. Not an a-hole. I personally believe you went about this the right way. You were willing to help. You knew sister-in-law wouldn't, so you asked for her permission. I don't think you owe anyone an apology. Yeah, at first I thought this would be a stubborn, "Oh, you said you didn't want me to," thing with a sister-in-law asking for help. But it obviously isn't at all. What the hell did his brother expect him to do? Take the kid while his mother was there screaming she didn't want him to? Both parents get a say in a veto in who can watch their child, and she clearly wasn't comfortable with it. Plus, the brother is an A, saying she wasn't thinking straight. Sister-in-law has always said she isn't comfortable with it. It's not new. Not an a-hole. If she, in her state of mind, had enough capacity to insist no, and to question whether you had substances or a girl, both of which are none of her business, then she was in her right mind enough that her demand of no should have been respected. This should be said to anyone who tries to say you're wrong. Someone should be asking sister-in-law why she had to be an a-hole, not asking you. Not an a-hole, and don't let them tell you otherwise. She did say D's on the counter, so I can see that as a concern for the safety of her child. Not necessarily a rational one, as just because someone takes substances occasionally does not mean they have them lying around their home for a child to stumble on. Now, let's read the next story. Am I the a-hole for sabotaging my little brother's food on purpose? My little brother is 18. I'm 20. I am staying with my family for the holidays and thought it'd be a nice time, but I forgot that they treat me like a housekeeper. I do almost all the chores and I don't mind if it's my chore. Obviously, if I notice the dishwasher's full, I empty it. If I cook, I clean up. If I make a mess, I clean up. However, if my little brother makes a mess, he makes me clean up. If I refuse and tell him to do it himself, he tells my parents and they side with him, and just bug me until I do it. My brother also asks me to cook for him. He pulls out brownie mix and is like, "Make this." I always am like, "Sure, I can make it, but you have to help." He gets mad and says, "I helped by taking out the box." And when I refuse to make stuff for him or tell him to make it himself, he'll throw a fit and tell our parents. Lately, he keeps asking me to make stuff and I get frustrated going back and forth about why can't he make the stuff himself or just ask our parents. So I make the food he asks, but I always add stuff he doesn't like. Coincidentally, he hates a ton of stuff I love to eat. So if he asks for brownies and refuses to help, I put nuts in it. He hates them and I like them. He came over to see the brownies and got mad at me and told me he hated nuts and can't eat the brownies anymore. I just said, "Too bad. Make it yourself next time or help me, and tell me not to put nuts in." I thought he'd learned his lesson to at least help, but he keeps asking for stuff and I just keep putting stuff in that he doesn't like. He finally got fed up and said he's not eating because I keep making stuff with stuff he doesn't like. I just shrugged and told him to make his own food then. He told my parents, of course, and they just told me to stop being an a-hole and make food for him. It was my last day at home, so I just told them to make food for him if they're so concerned before I left. Now my parents are upset with me, and my brother is angry with me, and I am wondering if I was too petty. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. When I was reading, I thought your brother was like 5, then I went back and realized he was 18. Thank God you're out of there. I helped by taking out the box. No, just no. It sounds like your parents have really different standards for the two of you, and much higher expectations on you. I'm guessing this is gender-based, though you didn't mention. Anyway, I think this is hilarious, and you should consider putting it in r/malicious compliance. Your brother is legally an adult, and certainly old enough to handle making a box of brownie mix, and is way past the point where he can stand to learn that if he wants something done a certain way, he can do it himself. Not the a-hole, and well played. Yeah, 3 sentences in, I went, "Oh, OP is a girl, isn't she?" Not the a-hole. He sounds like an idiot. Why would your parents expect you to cater to him? Your parents are a-holes for allowing your brother to be such an entitled little turd. You are definitely not the a-hole. Why do your parents baby him? That's nauseating. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole because I don't want to give my dog to my autistic nephew? I found a dog, Dave, that had been abandoned at a dog park. I waited with him until it was dark, and then took him home with the intention of trying to find an owner or a rescue that would take him. He had no collar, and when I took him to my vet the next day, we couldn't find a microchip. He was clearly someone's pet at some point. He's neutered, housebroken, and very friendly. Rehoming him never really panned out. No owner ever turned up despite searching and posting on lost pet pages, and I wasn't willing to take him to a kill shelter. My husband was annoyed at first, but it's been almost 2 years now. My other dog has bonded with him. I've fallen in love with him, and even my husband has grudgingly accepted him. As far as I'm concerned, Dave is part of our family. My brother-in-law and his family relocated to our city and moved in with us while they were closing on a house. My 8-year-old nephew has autism, and it's caused him some struggles. His parents had talked about trying to find him a pet, but I guess they never found a good fit, at least until they met Dave. He really bonded with Dave, to the point where he sneaks out of bed at night to sleep in Dave's dog's bed with him. Dave is all he talks about, and he gets upset whenever we leave the house and don't take the dogs with us. I guess my sister-in-law talked to my husband about keeping Dave when they moved out, and my husband told her he'd have to talk to me, but I guess there was a strong insinuation that it would be okay. I only found out about this proposal when my brother-in-law approached me and thanked me for letting them keep Dave before my husband ever even mentioned it to me. My husband and I had a fight, and when the dust settled, it's the three of them against me. My husband feels that because Dave was living with us more by accident than design, so we were really fostering him more than keeping him. And so it would be selfish to keep him when my nephew clearly loves him so much. He says we can go to the shelter and get another companion for our other dog. So that's like a win-win. Dave gets a home and another dog gets out of the shelter for Christmas. And Dave would certainly be very loved and spoiled with my in-laws. And yet, after 2 years, he feels like my dog. The thought of giving him away after all this time hurts. And the idea that my in-laws are using my nephew's autism as some kind of trump card to prove they're entitled to have him really rubs me the wrong way. And I don't see him as interchangeable. Like, I can just pop down to the shelter and score a perfect replacement. Now, let's read the top comments. Not an a-hole. They're trying to bully you. Now, a conversation between you and your husband about whether to keep the dog is one thing. But your husband basically did this without consulting you. But your brother-in-law and his wife have no say in this. Their autistic kid is irrelevant. Exactly. The husband should have at least said he would talk to Opie but no promises, and then ran it by the wife. The husband should have known how much Opie cared for the dog, even his feelings may have been little. Brother-in-law and his wife are just being overbearing regarding an issue that is not their decision. They are not doing your nephew any favors and leading him on that he actually might get your dog. Kids, autistic or not, need to learn that they don't get everything they might want. There are so many dogs that need a home right now. Just Google how to apply for a service dog for a child. There are organizations that train dogs just for that purpose. Not an a-hole. Just because it's easy doesn't make it right. They can get their own dog. Keep Dave and give your hubby to the in-laws. Not the a-hole. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to cook with my mother-in-law? I, 26 female, married my husband last year. Our marriage is good, and for the most part, I love his family, with the exception of his mom. At first, she seemed as nice as the rest of his family. She was welcoming and nice, and she would invite me to cook with her during family dinners and holidays, and it was nice. Then when my husband and I got engaged, she started bringing up his high school girlfriend. They were together from 14 to 17 when she passed away. My mother-in-law had known her from early childhood because my husband and her were friends first, and mother-in-law thought she was great. Mother-in-law was devastated when she died, and my husband admitted after I brought up concerns that he always thought mother-in-law wanted them to get married someday. We have both asked her not to compare me to his former girlfriend, and she always says, of course, she's sorry, but she does it. When we're alone and cooking together is when she brings her up the most. She'll say how they used to love cooking together when she was at their house and how she did something a different way or how she would have been a talented chef if she had been given the chance. One time, my husband walked in while she was comparing me to his former girlfriend, and he told his mom to knock it off, that she was hurting my feelings. Mother-in-law said she hadn't realized. After that, I sat her down and told her that I understood she loved the girl, and of course, she misses her. But it feels uncomfortable when she compares me to her directly, and could she please stop? I told her that I didn't want any hard feelings, but it was hurting how often she compared me to her. She apologized and seemed genuine because the apology was great, but the very next time, she did it again, and after a gentle reminder, it happened yet another time. So I said I was done, and I now believe it's done deliberately. My husband agrees. We can't decide if she's trying to get rid of me, saying out of malice, or if she's just so uncaring that she doesn't bother to try and filter what she says. My husband told her that she makes others uncomfortable too, and hurts my feelings every time. He told her that she hurts him too by bringing it up because he loves me and is happy with me, and doesn't like his mom seemingly wishing we weren't together. Once lockdown hit, we didn't see his family for several months, and only recently saw them again, and mother-in-law approached and said she was sorry, and father-in-law helped her realize what she was doing wrong. I told her I accept her apology. She then asked if the next time we can get together at home, would I like to cook with her again? And I told her no, that I think it is better we don't. She's upset and claims I should give her another chance. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She was told multiple times by you and your husband to stop. She ignored it. It's kind of you to accept her apologies, but you don't have to cook with her, and she only has herself to blame. Yes, that's called a consequence. Apologies don't always negate the consequence the things that we do, and we have to accept that. Obi's mother-in-law has to accept that part of Obi accepting her apology is having space from her not cooking with her. Not the a-hole. It's time for some boundaries here. Husband has your back. Talk it over with him, and if he's with it, low contact and no cooking. She has no right to have an option on her son's marriage or who he married anymore. It's said and done. Also, the girl died. She's not around, so I don't understand why using her memory to hurt people accomplishes anything. Matter of fact, next time she says something like that, tell her, I bet you, if that ex is so amazing, she would be really disappointed in the way and reason you talk about her now. Not the a-hole. Let's say she really did change and won't be doing that anymore. The fact is, she promised this before and failed to keep it, literally every time she made it. It's going to take time for you to build up trust with her, and if she's really remorseful, then she needs to understand that. One more apology and promise to do better doesn't erase her history. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you with the next one. Stay safe.